friends, I'm Rick, and this is your Seat at the Tables, and we are looking at Jihad Secrets, the Blake documents. And, oof, this one was a doozy. I enjoyed this one quite a lot. It's basically something was compiled for Chandrasekhar Kurita, and I butcher his name numerous times. Spent his life hunting for ancient secrets. Almost as soon as the word of Blake formed in 3052, Uncle Chandy put his vast network of spies and his massive wealth toward digging behind the facade. Their facade is now 2 decades later. Uncle Chandy has discovered more than he ever thought possible. Now he's using that knowledge to send a coalition of forces against one of Blakist's hidden 5 worlds, the Ruins of Gabriel. More importantly, he's found a connection to the single greatest mystery in the last half-millennia. Aware he's almost guaranteed his death at the hands of the Blakist fanatic, Uncle Chandy knows it's time to come to stand in the light and reveal the secrets that will change the tide of the Jihad. So, the Blake documents contain a wealth of information on the current universe-shaking Jihad storyline, providing more hard facts than any book to date. Detailed information on the opening years of the Jihad, including the maps of the most significant conflicts, current 3075 around the sphere, and the same vein as the Jihad Hot Spots series provided up-to-date information on the latest happenings, biographies of more than 20 individuals important to the Jihad, a complete description of all Word of Blake forces, including unit logos, the hidden history of Clan Wolverine, and the Minnesota tribe revealed. A complete rules section rounds out this book with the gameplay, new rules for taking on Word of Blake division in the field, construction rules for primitive units, and new mechs, blah, blah, blah. That said, there's still a whole shitload of crap about the Jihad and the Word of Blake and their hidden doctrine, the hidden 5 worlds, and their cybernetic shadow divisions and so on and stuff that I do not have yet. There's either more books out there that go into greater detail on that stuff, or they don't exist, which is, I have questions as to whether or not that's the fact. Man, this thing is just chock full. This really went a long way to enlightening me and giving me enlightenment of what potentially was going on during the Jihad, why it happened, more importantly, how it was preceded, and the outlet and the outflow and all this other stuff. And I got a pile of notes. And to keep this from being a 3-hour video, we're going to try to chuck it down. So, 3068 quote Jihad. Bad enough the Word of Blake was on the offensive against multiple factions. I decided that this was the moment to go do the same. Duke Hassiak's major attack into Compelling space, ending with major losses for both sides and no gains. Duke Kelson Steiner declares war on the Free Worlds League, soon followed by Duke Unimar of the Boland province. Kelson Steiner cited privilege in lieu of the absence of authority from Tharkat. In 3069, despite successful counterattacks by the Free Worlds League, things stall out. Free Worlds League was in disarray as the Captain General was then being ousted as a Wabi false Merrick. Once again, both sides took considerable losses with no appreciable gains. 3068 to 3074, Word of Blake forces managed to capture 3 of the Lyran's premier industrial centers and turn production to bolster their own ranks. Hesperus 2 and 6 through 68 through 70, Donganol 68 to 70, and Coventry 68 to 71. On Solar 7, baffled about the Wabbies, and I'm baffled by the Wabbies invading and spending considerable resources on the effort of taking Solar 7 in the first place, and to what end? You know, what do they want? Revenue? Publicity? Arms and repair facilities? That don't make sense to me. Unexplained, there's an orbital attack. The orbital attack on Scion is still not completely explained as to how and why. The orbital attack on Torn's homeworld as well is not explained as to who and the why. In the Fed sums, the Wabbies' assault on New Avalon ends in the Word of Blake retreat from after heavy destruction of industrial civilian centers. In 73, the Lyran Alliance states start to begin to rebound, retaking Hesperus and Coventry. Still, a devious bomb implanted in a former pirate leader detonates at a conference, killing most of the story characters on Ark Royal. A lot of key players is wounded or killed. Obviously, there's some novels I haven't read that fill in these things or led to this stuff. There's definitely some more Jihad material I have yet to I need to dig up and find and try to get some more information on so I can fill in my missing gaps. Y'all know all this stuff? Good for you. But not all of us have that luxury. The Confederation Wobbies somehow strike at Cyan, almost killing Sun Zhao. Not sure how that played out. Who actually did what. Kali Liao may or may not be a member of the Word of Blake, or she pretended to be one. Then at the last moment turns her face and turns her forces on the Wobbies to save Liao. It's definitely become very clear that she's insane, or very, very touched in the head, and that she's also highly dedicated to the Confederation and her brother Sun Zhao, far more than her brother Sun Zhao may want to acknowledge. And I don't know, there might be some unhealthy stuff going on there too. It's also implied that she had a relationship with Cameron St. James, the Prince Center of the Word of Blake's militia, also the head of the 6th of June coalition or faction within the Word of Blake. It doesn't say what happened to his son, to their offspring, or what she did with them, vice versa. I think it did kind of mention it a little bit, but there's still a lot out to lunch on that. It doesn't really explain how the two got together, although I'm sure that was in a novel somewhere I haven't yet to read. I mean, but okay. That's disconcerting at best, because Kali's a nut job. And no offense, one fanatic and getting it on with another fanatic causes God knows what to come up down the road. It just, the potentials are there. Crazy stuff. She may or may not have had a kid by Cameron St. James, 6th of June faction. Potentially, Kali has also undergone genetic surgery at the hands of Word of Blake or somebody else. Now, she shows some implications of having some cybernetic of some kind, or some genetic manipulation of some kind, because she's surely capable of doing some stuff and or that borders on supernatural. All right. Then we get into Devlin Stone. He's definitely a Mary Sue sort. He's basically an unknown. He's a tactical and strategic genius, a natural leader, has overtures of a Word of Blake. He overturns a Word of Blake POW camp and proceeds to form and lead a coalition of vastly different, desperate elements within various factions to defeat the Word of Blake. He then was on to form the Republic of the Sphere. Managed to convince most factions to, quote, demobilize their forces and their ability to produce weapons of war, i.e. the swords and the plowshare track. There's so much more about Stone I've yet to uncover. Obviously, there's novels in the Dark Ages that I have not read that cover some of that. It's one of the things that annoy the hell out of some people. I tend to take a little longer view on it, but sometimes you'll get these characters that just seem to be superhuman, super lucky, super impervious, or just designed to have everything flow their way, even when they're not. When things go south or when they have a failure, they still seem to rebound and become stronger for it. And there are people that happens to. It's just sometimes it seems to happen in our smaller world of the Battletech universe, even as vast as it is, it just seems to occur a bit more frequently than a lot of people care for or notice until they wake up and they go, hey, how did Stone manage to pull all this crap off? How did Alec Ward get to be, to do all this? What makes him so special? So, and then we got the Sun Zhao, maybe the genetic offspring of Hans Davion. Maybe. I did a separate video on that, and I did a separate video on the portion for the not named clan and Word of Blake connection. Man, that one really sent me down a couple unforeseen rabbit holes that I wasn't really keen on finding. But like I said, there's just so much information in here, so much good stuff, and it reads a little better than the first book did. The first book was just I don't know. It was just all over. I didn't like the format. Now maybe it, because I read that one, I understood the format. And this one just a hair better, but this one seems to be laid out better. There's still a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of head scratching going on from things. So obviously, my next goal is to see if I got. See if somebody sent me a couple PDFs, and I gotta look and see if I printed some of them out, and some of them I haven't printed yet. And I think maybe the Jihad Hot Spots is one of them. If so, I need to get it printed out so I can read it, and I need to get my hands on a copy of that other book, the fourth version. And I know I got the name written down somewhere, but I'm dragging my name on it right off the top of my head. Like I said, I believe Mechanical Frog did a video on it. And that's how come I became aware of it. And then he was the one that kind of sent me down on a little bit of a journey to find the other books that I'm missing. And so far things are progressing better than I hoped for. Anyway, so much stuff that went on. This is the stuff I really could have got into. A lot of this I missed out on this in the 2000s after I had to walk away from the game table for a while and had to deal with some other issues, and I was disillusioned by how fast it fell apart. You guys hear that story all the time, so I'll try not to belabor it, but in part, if I'd stuck it out, this stuff came back later. I'm not sure what year what year did this get introduced? What year does this say? 2008. So by this time, so this was this written by Catalyst? Was this put together by the Catalyst people? Because it sure sounds like it. So by the time 2008 and this starts, the Fan Pro era is over, or turning into this Catalyst. There's an element there I'm not too up to speed on how we came. I understand better now how FASA failed and how Fan Pro and Wizards or WizKids became replaced FASA, and how convoluted that two combination worked. What I don't know is when Fan Pro failed and CGL took over, and how much work did CGL. I know that CGL, Catalyst has done a gob of work or a lot of direction on trying to tie up the loose ends and tie up the untidiness of the Fan Pro era, and the mix over between the end of FASA and the Fan Pro, and to keep the continuity going and to fix a lot of glaring problems. And my hat's off to Catalyst for making that attempt. A lot of companies wouldn't have done it. They just said, "Oh well, we're going to just reboot everything and start fresh, or we're going to start in a completely different fictional universe or some bullshit." So I mean, at the end of the day, there's still a lot of stuff I have yet to read. In the process of getting some copies of the, I actually have been given some copies of the Wars of Reaving by one of my wonderful subscribers, and in the process, that's on my queue to get printed out in the PDF next. I want to wait a few weeks. I want to wait into a new month at work, because I don't want to, like I said, I'm not trying to produce 15 or 20 books in 1 month at work on that printer. I don't want to cheese off the boss lady. She's pretty, they're pretty laid back on a lot of things, and like I said, I left them $20 to help cover the cost of the printing of the stuff I did this month, and hopefully I can print some more stuff next month and go from there. But oof, there is so much stuff in here. Black Dragons. What's the Blakist goals? The Blake Protectorate. There's so many different areas and stuff, and there's the things that like I said, the Word of Blake basically takes on everybody. They just strike out like a flailing beast in every direction with grand schemes to somehow break everybody and bring everybody to their knees. Had they been able to focus all their energies on one faction at a time, perhaps they went after, the Lyran Commonwealth. The Lyran Commonwealth would have been screwed. or it would definitely not be it would be a worse hot mess than it is now. Instead, they just basically through the entire it's like grabbing a puzzle and tossing it in the air. I mean, they really effed up a lot of crap on, in their pick of anger, their temper tantrum when the Star League dissolved itself just as they were about ready to take a seat at the table, and we're gonna y'all gonna pay. And of course, obviously, as soon as the shit hits the fan, what happens? All the petty 2-bit yahoos decide to step up and get in their licks too. Trying to get into it's not bad enough that you got a bunch of Word of Blake fanatics going out there trying to massacre anybody in power and to disrupt everything. Well, you're going to step up and add to the confusion by taking advantage of that. Yeah, that's typical human nature, which is one of the reasons why BattleTech is the hot mess that is BattleTech is the politics and realities of rulership within the inner sphere is such a hot mess. That's why we love it so much. It's why there's so much conflict. Talk about some industrial might in the periphery. The Turians that talk about when somebody launched a bunch of asteroids at the capital of Taurus, although it's the kind of vague as to exactly who did that and why they did that. And there must be something somewhere that I don't have access to just yet to help fill in the blank. The Wars of Reaving was also occurring about this same time, it'd be my understanding, which helps explain why the clans were not more heavily involved in what was going on between the Word of Blake and the rest of the Inner Sphere. Obviously, the Wobbies would have taken their swings at the clans as well. It's implied that their whole intentions, their whole hidden world doctrine and secret division crap was intended to take on the clans in the first place and destroy them. Then we get into Devlin Stone and some of the stories revolving around this guy. He's one hell of a character. I mean, he really comes out of nowhere and plays an important role. It's ironic or sad, depending on how you look at it, about how the Republican sphere comes to an end. It's not surprising, but how all of Stone's effort was for nothing at the end of the day. Oh, another thing I also ran into in this particular CGL, you need to talk to your editors a little bit. I mean, I'm not a big person looking for every typo that crops up in a book, but generally speaking, I expect to see at least one. One is acceptable. In the sheer volume of work and material that goes into these things, finding one typo, when you find a number of them, right? I mean, here's one right here. So the 4th Army found the brief 4-day battle. So they found the 4-day battle, or they fought it. So it should be they fought. I'm just saying. And then there's another one in here that goes, instead of long-range missiles, it says large-range missiles. Is that a thing? Has somebody come up with a new missile launcher that has large missile launcher as opposed to a long-range, a large range missile launcher? Or long range, but it just is what it is. We get our bio section on various individuals, some of which I've never heard of before, some of them I've encountered in some of the novels I've read or referenced or references to. Others are just, in my opinion, attempts to connect to older lore and older units and things to help bring them forward into the timeline. A little bit more on the Thomas Merrick. I really want to find that. I want to find more about Thomas Merrick being outed and the story around that. I mean, it comes up enough so we know it's there. It's just a matter of getting from here to there, I guess. It is what it is. A lot of interesting stuff going on in here. Yeah. It's like that connection between Cameron St. James and Jameis and Kelly Leo. I sure would like to figure out what story that came about in, because it has to be somewhere, obviously. Then we get into various units and of the Word of Blake and where they're located and what they were doing, etc., etc. At the movement, a lot of stuff going on. a lot of stuff. And there's still a lot of, they talk about the shadow divisions. There's still a lot of unanswered questions in my mind about this portion of the Word of Break, and if there isn't something that has more detail on them, would like to know. Just my personal opinions. I like this fella. I do. I like his gist. I like what he's up to. I like how he's handling things. Yeah. So then we call it Through the Looking Glass. And there's a number of things in here. I did 2 videos already. One on the connection, the implied connection of the Clan Wolverine and the Word of Blake, and then one on Sun Tzu's parentage, because it's just interesting. It talks about the Karpov's legacy. Was Catherine set up? Arthur Steiner Davion the truth? Did he really die, or was he, something else going on? Is he out there, raising a family on some world somewhere in peace? Is he the Elvis of 3070, or 3060? The Callie and Cameron. It tries to fill in a little bit, but there's still, it just puts enough in there to make you want to know effing more, and make me wonder if there isn't more somewhere in the story of the lore. So, and then like I said, we get this section on the not named clan. Oh, I tell you, that one, I've been hearing references to it for a while, and it really kind of makes me want to know more and find out what novels that potentially that was taking place in, just so I can get into it and figure out what the hell's going on. Rules annex and rule modifications, typical stuff found at the back of most of these source books. Some initial variants on Mechs and machinery. Right. Of course, the record sheets that go with them. And we have a new dropship, the Trojan, our blockade runner. Right? Sure. Good stuff. This one was, yeah. Well, I tell you, I don't know, maybe I'll get more information. Like I said, there's 2 more books in the Jihad, revolving around the Jihad, that I have yet to read, and I think I have one. I have to go back later and go through my my inbox and see if it was one of the ones that was sent to me, or if it was something somebody sent me reference to where I could find it. And the other one, of course, I have to figure out how to get a copy of it, or if I can afford to purchase one. Anyway, you know how this is going to end, don't you? Right? Because we have come to the ending. Going on, my friends, this is Rick, and hey, if you like the channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell your buddies, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell anybody else that's in the gaming industry or gaming fandom that says, hey, this is a channel worth checking out, right? Till next time.